Hi everybody. So thankfully the skins are done, which is why that last video was so short. I wanted to have a nice segue. So here I am deburring all of the parts for the different elevators. And I have done my best to make sure that the pieces are actually separated into left and right elevators. All the parts all have left and right, or an L or an R drawn on them in Sharpie. Like the one that suddenly just appeared on the desk. So while I'm cleaning, a quick note about marking those parts. Yeah, getting a little wife love there. So one thing about marking the parts is, obviously you don't ever want to confuse parts. If you look at those strips on the desk there, you know, there's two of those, and if you didn't know which was which, you wouldn't. And not that they probably wouldn't have fit on the opposite elevators, but you know, you go through and you match drill some holes and you final drill holes and stuff, and you know, you put it on the wrong piece, it might not fit. You start riveting that thing together, and then God forbid you get to a point where you're like, oh crap, this is not the right piece, this was supposed to go on the other side. So marking pieces is important, especially with the ribs. So one of the things I had to do is, you know, the rib pieces come attached as one. You bandsaw them out, you clean them up, and then you have a large and a small piece. Now I try to keep the specific pieces together because they were, well, you know, they were twins. They came together, so why not try to keep them together? But once you fit them onto the spar and you mock everything up and you start match drilling holes and everything, you want to make sure that those ribs go in the exact same place because you know that they fit. So if you were to look at the top of the main elevator spars, at my spars, where each of them are clecoed in, I've written a symbol and written the matching symbol on the actual rib itself. So the spar has a symbol and the rib has a symbol. And it's, you know, things like the @ symbol or a star or some Greek letters or something like that, whatever it takes, just to make sure that you don't use different parts where you hadn't mocked them up before. And I have two different Sharpies. There's that tiny little Sharpie that you see on the desk right there, and that's the ultra fine point. I also have the regular fine point. That's the one we're all usually familiar with, kind of a big felt tip. Both of them work equally well. The only thing I will say is the ultra points, while they are great, they do have a tendency of getting gunked up. You know, this is a dusty process. You know, there's metal dust everywhere. You're grinding crap, and if you keep the cap off of those while you're creating a lot of this dust, you will basically ruin that pen, as the pen that you see before you has already been ruined, and I had to throw it away. I just couldn't get ink to come out of the front. And I know it's not because I wrote too much with it. I was just using it for marking pieces. So the fine point works perfectly fine. I just I went with the ultra fine point. That way I could make small markings on pieces. I can also use it to help mark places where I wanted to do a little bit of extra shimming, or if I needed to, you know, cut a piece. I like to use a nice fine line so that you know you're right at the edge of where that piece is supposed to be. The regular fine Sharpies just kind of leaves a big bold line and not quite as accurate. So, yeah, just deburring away. You know, of all the tools I've tried, you know, I got the Dremel, I got the files, got a bench grinder, I've got drill bit attachments that have Scotch-Brites and all that. It always comes back to the file. I know as I'm filing that thing by hand, with each stroke I can see exactly how much metal I've taken off, how much more I need to take off, if it's smooth or not. I'm sure it's adding significant amounts of time to the build process, but I make sure I'm doing it right. So, yeah, we're just going to keep cleaning parts, which will seem like we're doing it forever, but we won't. So, see you soon.